welcome to Talking About the Movies. Several days late and $1 short. Yeah, I know I was supposed to have this on Sunday. I usually record this on Saturday night, and my schedule just got all mixed up, so I did not have the time to go ahead and do that, especially with the pick game being in the mid-afternoon. So, yeah, I didn't have the time to go ahead and put an episode together, but I figured I might as well get one out here today, even though we're going to have another episode coming up in a couple of days. But the subject of this episode, this should be a really quick episode overall, because I've kind of talked about some of the worst remakes I've seen over the last 20 years, and I figure, you know what, let's make that one of our 20th anniversary specials. So there's not going to be anything too extravagant for this episode. As you can tell, we don't have the big intro, we don't have any of the usual end credits and all that. We will get back to that at some point here. I might not even do it next week, but when I go see Predator Badlands in a couple weeks, probably that's going to be what happens here. So just going to run down a list of movies here that, I consider to be some of the worst remakes we've had in the last 20 years. And there certainly have been a lot of them. I mean, we have gone pretty much remake crazy here in the world of entertainment. I mean, we basically just remake everything that we think has some kind of a brand to it. And even though it's never going to turn out to be the big hit that the studios are hoping for, they still keep making them because profitability, man, there's those profits, man. And yeah, you might get profits because they'll be playing on streaming over the next couple of years or through physical media, but there's no reason to make some of these movies, and there are some pretty bad ones here, so just kind of running them down here in no particular order. Specifically, there is an order, specifically from 2005 to today, 2025. And one of the first ones right off the bat is Yours, Mine, and Ours from 2005. And this was a movie that was coming out when Paramount was kind of going remake crazy. I mean, they were doing all these different remakes for stuff like The Stepford Wives, War of the Worlds, Last Holiday, Bad News Bears, The Honeymooners, The Longest Yard, Alfie. Most of them were not. Most of them actually weren't that bad. I actually do like Last Holiday a lot, and the Bad News Bears remake. The Honeymooners, I actually am one of the few people that like that movie. The Longest Yard I thought was pretty good. Alfie I thought was okay. Stepford Wives, it's pretty bad. War of the Worlds, But Yours, Mine, and Ours was a movie that was clearly being made because of the success that Disney had, Fox had with Cheaper by the Dozen. Yeah, not Disney yet, but soon. And sure enough, with the success of the Steve Martin remake, and not to mention that there was going to be a sequel coming out the next month, surely Paramount had to go out there and find a remake of Yours, Mine, and Ours, which wasn't really even theirs. It was MGM's, but by that time, MGM was owned by Columbia. There were so many companies behind this movie. Paramount Pictures, Columbia, MGM, Nickelodeon Movies. I mean, good lord, man. And it was a movie that was obviously made to cash in on the remake of Cheaper by the Dozen and the sequel that was coming out. And it's a lame movie. I mean, this is a film that is your typical bad 2000s family comedy that they just plastered the title, Yours, Mine, and Ours, on in order to make a quick buck off of it. I mean, that's literally what the movie is, plain and simple. And I've delved into this in the Time About the Movies episode for this particular weekend, so if you want to go check it out, it's online, Thanksgiving weekend 2005, or go to the best and worst movies of 2005, because that's where you'll find it too. Another bad remake I can think of, Clash of the Titans, which came out in 2010. It was, of course, the big-budget remake directed by the guy who did The Incredible Hulk, with Sam Worthington, freshly coming off the success of The Incredible Hulk. I think I mentioned that already, but Sam Worthington's coming off the success of Avatar, so that's what I was trying to say. But the biggest problem with the Clash of the Titans remake is simply the fact that it's trying way too hard to be a big, epic, modern blockbuster in the vein of 300, when the original Clash of the Titans was a classic because it was a practical film that used a lot of practical effects and also classic traditions of people like Ray Harryhausen, and they took that and they basically just made a watered-down, big-budget flop of a film overall. And it also didn't help that the movie was put into post-production 3D hell because Avatar was so successful. Warner Brothers said, we gotta have our own 3D success here, so let's put this movie that was shot in 2D and put it in 3D. I didn't see this in 2D when it came out. I didn't see this in 3D when it came out, is what I'm trying to say. But man, if it's in 2D, this still was fucking terrible. I mean, this was an awful, awful film. It doesn't work because there are too many subplots that make no sense whatsoever. The action is not interesting. They're wasting all these great talents. Gemma Arterton, Liam Neeson, Ray Fiennes, Pete Postlethwaite. I mean, so many good people in this movie. And there's only 2 minutes where this movie is awesome, and that's when the Kraken shows up. But that's 2 minutes of a 2-hour waste of your time. And Clash of the Titans sincerely is a waste of your time, plain and simple. Another really bad remake that came out in 2014, Endless Love. This is a movie that was a remake of a movie that was already bad from the get-go. The 1981 Endless Love is not a good movie. The only thing that's memorable about that movie is the Lionel Richie Diana Ross song. That's it. I mean, you have an idea where you can take a remake of a terrible. We're always saying remake the bad movies, not the good ones. Here's their chance to do that, and they failed miserably at it so badly. Like, this movie is so bad on so many levels because, the only thing that this movie remembers that people remember from the original film that was good was the song Endless Love. You know why that's not in here? Because we have to put in a remake of Addicted to Love, which makes no sense whatsoever in the context of this movie. Your two leads in here are terrible. Alex Pettyfer and Gabrielle Wald have no chemistry between them whatsoever. The original movie was rated R, and for good reason, because it has a teenager having graphic sex, and the mother of the daughter of the woman in that couple is watching her daughter getting deflowered downstairs in her living room, and, it covers up some disturbing, touchy subjects, and this one's PG-13, so clearly we're not going in there to give you a real honest-to-God remake of this. No. We're just taking the name of it because money, baby, and yeah, it didn't make any money. It made people actually respect the original film more. Hell, I respected the original film more, and I hated that movie. Yeah, you took a chance to remake a bad film, and you failed miserably at it. Endless Love, God, what a terrible film. Speaking of R-rated classics that I guess some people consider Endless Love a classic, that were turned into PG-13 crap, RoboCop, the remake of RoboCop in 2014. Let's go ahead and bring in all the biggest stars we can find, and Michael Keaton, Samuel L. Jackson, Joel Kinnaman, who was on The Killing at that time. I mean, they take some notable names in here and just completely dismantle anything that made RoboCop the classic that it was. RoboCop worked in the 1980s because it was a satirical action comedy about how it's a movie that just does not give a fuck about what it does. There's literally a scene where the bad guy gets thrown out of a window and has these long hands like the Slender Man's coming after you as he's falling down, and you can tell it's bad CG. It's not even CG. It's bad claymation, but we didn't care. It was still badass. It was still fun to watch. When RoboCop wants to kill the guy, and he has to get the boss to stop it, to fire the guy in order to do it, and he goes like, "Dick, you're fired!" And then Peter Wells just like, "Thank you," and then he just moves away, and then he falls out the window. It's stupid, but it's hilariously fun on so many levels. This movie is not. This movie makes the 2012 remake of Total Recall, which I should have mentioned before. I'll get to that in just a second, because, yeah, that's a bad one. This looks like a masterpiece by comparison. Joel Kinnaman is a plank of wood. Like, he's Henry Cavill levels of bad as Superman. And I don't like his Superman overall, just because it's Zack Snyder that did that, but this movie is a sloppy mess on so many levels, wasting all this good talent on a really, really bad film. Speaking of Total Recall, let's briefly touch on that, because that's one I should have mentioned before. Yeah, Total Recall is a bad remake too, and this one just doesn't work simply because it's got its head so far up its own ass, and the director literally is pulling the Paul W. S. Anderson method of, hey, look at my hot wife that I'm banging and you're not. Because, yeah, Kate Beckinsale's character, who was played by Sharon Stone in the original, was a brief not brief, but a more supporting character. You would think that Kate Beckinsale's one of the stars of the movie, because she shows up, and the people who wrote this movie gave her so much more to do, and it's a failure on so many levels. The scene that always gets me so upset is the scene where they're trying to convince Quaid that, he's back at Recall. In the original, it was suspenseful. It actually took its time. It actually did work. But in the remake, they stretch it out so goddamn much to the point where you just didn't care when it was all said and done. It's just like, shoot everybody here so we can get the hell out of this movie. Total Recall was a bad film. I should have put that before RoboCop, but I didn't. So that's my fault on that. And speaking of Henry Cavill, he was in a bad remake, The Man from U.N.C.L.E., based off the TV series, which was directed by Guy Ritchie. It featured a cast that included some big names: Cavill, Armie Hammer, Alicia Vikander, Elizabeth Debicki, Hugh Grant. A lot of good talent in this movie, and Cavill and Hammer's witty banter comes off more as an anything you can do, I can do better routine from the 1940s. The villain's motivation makes no sense. The comedy is not funny. The action is bland and forgettable. And it's just so unpleasant when you see everybody in here that worked on this film, and they just have nothing to work with here. It also didn't help that February we had a much better spy comedy called The Kingsman: The Secret Service, which was a far superior film. This, no, not so much for that one. Moving on to another bad remake from 2015, Vacation. Deceptive marketing is terrible, and yeah, the best jokes from this movie were in the trailer for the film. Because when you saw this movie, it is not even raunchy comedy. It's nothing but offensive humor. Half the jokes in this are just nothing but dick jokes, gay jokes, pedophilia jokes. Like, this is not what a vacation movie is supposed to be. If the writers and directors of this think that this is what John Hughes would have written decades ago, John Hughes is spinning his grave furiously. And the fact that it was amazing that these guys got to do the Spider-Man movie, and maybe it was, and look at what they did there. They actually made some really good Spider-Man movies after that. So maybe this was just not their cup of tea to do another vacation movie. And it's just a bad remake of a classic in National Lampoon's Vacation. And trying to do it with this is in this way, in this format, it's just the wrong move on so many levels. Just a terrible, terrible film, plain and simple. I gotta throw in a couple of Disney live-action remakes. Not the ones that people want me to talk about. But I'm sorry, Beauty and the Beast is not a good remake. I mean, it's a terrible film based off of a classic movie, but this one feels just like such an insult to the original movie. Some of the moves they decided to go with this are so ridiculous, like adding plot elements that make no sense, adding gross-out humor so that the little kids can laugh at the cheap joke. Beauty and the Beast, the original, did not have to be this simplified, and they completely butchered that in a terrible, terrible way. This movie is such a pointless remake that had so much opportunity to be good, but then they just completely made something that was just a saturated mess of garbage. And I know I'm going to be one of those few people that says I don't like this, but I'm sorry, I don't like Beauty and the Beast, plain and simple. What else do we got here? Oh, can't forget this chestnut here, The Mummy. Remember the dark universe? Remember Russell Crowe saying, "Welcome to a world of gods and monsters." And then this film crashed and burned, and nobody wanted to make it again. You want to know why the Marvel Cinematic Universe was so successful? Because they took their time to develop it. They developed it starting in 2004, back when they didn't even have Disney under their wing to get this done. Like, They hired a guy to put this plan together to self-finance these movies. They had creative control over the films. They took their time to create a cinematic universe that was one of the riskiest gambles ever, and it turned out to be one of the greatest moves in entertainment history, because it went on to become a multi-billion-dollar franchise of films that continues to this very day. Since then, everybody's been trying to copy that formula, and it just does not work because they're putting in half the effort to do it. They did it, Warner Brothers did it with the DC Extended Universe, which makes no sense because they already had the Conjuring universe and also the Lego films, which have been much more successful. Fox has been trying to do that with Aliens. You know, they got nothing else after Star Wars went to Disney, and of course this was before Fox was eventually acquired by Disney. Sony's had cinematic universes with Spider-Man that weren't supposed to star Spider-Man, but the Sinister Six, which did not translate well, obviously. Ghostbusters, they tried to do it with that didn't work out. They tried a King Arthur universe and a Robin Hood cinematic universe, and it failed miserably. And what the Dark Universe did, they started off on a bad note because the first movie was literally nothing but building up what this incredible new universe is going to be, and nobody gave a shit. Nobody gave a shit. Nobody really cared about making this film good. Like, even the marketing screwed up big time by putting out a trailer that was supposed to be scary, but people were laughing more at how badly it was because the audio was off, and you know they took all the sounds and all that, like the plane going down, and all you hear are people just going like, and Tom Cruise going like, like that is one of the that makes it more hilarious and not scary what they're trying to do here. Yeah, The Mummy was a bad mistake. So was Ghost of the Shell, the live action remake of that movie, which probably was the nail in the coffin for trying to make an Japanese anime into a live action film. I mean, you know, the problems with that movie are just all over the place, and you know, it doesn't help that Scarlett Johansson is bland as the villain, as the major in this. The movie tries way too hard to be better than the original film, which the original film is still a classic. Ghost of the Shell is not, and I guess we can thank this movie for bombing because, hey, at least they never made that Akira movie. Yet. We'll see what happens down the road. Another major misfire, The Predator. You know, Shane Black came back to the Predator franchise. Everyone was excited to see what he could do with this. I mean, Shane Black has already proved himself very well as a director with Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, The Nice Guys, and then he comes back to this, and it's a colossal misfire on so many levels. It has trouble deciding what does it want to be, and it doesn't feel like a Predator movie at all. You know, this film is such a cluttered mess, and it really didn't help that they only greenlit this movie because Shane Black's name was attached to it, and that was it. I mean, that's the only reason they brought him along on this. And we've since seen that since then Shane Black should just simply stay away from directing blockbusters because the Predator was a mess. Iron Man 3 wasn't great either, but you know, we still got the classics, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and The Nice Guys. And hey, the Predator franchise is on a right track again thanks to Dan Trachtenberg with Prey. And Predator Badlands looks pretty badass too. I can't wait to check that out next week. Superfly. Yeah, you don't even remember this was actually a thing, but somebody made a remake of Superfly. Because the world really needs a modernized, updated version of a blaxploitation classic, especially from Director X. This was a terrible movie. It's got a nice visual style to it, but we always say it here. Visuals don't make the fucking movie. And nothing of interest happens in this. The main characters aren't interesting. The story isn't interesting. This is just an awful film. There was no reason to remake this now and think that you're going to get the same type of reaction that you got back in the 1970s. Like, it's just a terrible idea on so many levels with Superfly. I guess you can count this as a remake. Spirit Untamed, which is more technically a film adaptation of the DreamWorks animated spin-off series, but it's trying too hard to be a remake of Spirit Stallion the Cimarron, a much better movie than this is. This is a terrible movie. I couldn't believe that DreamWorks Animation sunk to this low with the animation. I mean, the animation overall in this, yeah, it's an upgrade from the TV series. It's more fluid and more expressive, but just because the animation is good doesn't mean the movie is. It goes back to my point before. Visuals don't make the movie. You got way too big of a voice cast here, and I feel like they spent more time focusing on that than actually trying to tell a story, because the script in this is just a mess. This is just an overblown version of the first episode of the show, and they take this to an incredibly lazy level on the idea of the girl power mentality, the way this film is supposed to try to use the word spirit as a means to motivate the main characters. It's awful. Like, take a drink every time you watch the trailer for this and watch this movie and hear everyone talking about how, you know, you have a spirit in you. You'll be drunk, dead-ass drunk by the time you get to the end of the trailer. It doesn't help that your characters are also carbon cut-out characters. Like, they're stock characters. There was no reason for Spirit Untamed to actually be a film that exists. I mean, we just had Gabby's Dollhouse, the movie, and I had no plans on seeing that film, but at least I can understand that there's an audience for Gabby's Dollhouse, the movie, and they would like that. Even the target audience for Spirit Untamed would look at this and go like, wow, this is incredibly lazy. Like, it's a bad movie. It's a really, really bad film. Technically not considered a remake, but it's trying to sell as a remake, so I'm throwing it in there. Another Disney live-action remake that's fucking awful, Pinocchio, directed by Robert Zemeckis, featuring Tom Hanks as Geppetto. I mean, it looked like a film that had potential to it. It looked like a film that had promise to it, but it just kind of fell apart is on all the wrong levels. I mean, there's a good cast here: Tom Hanks, Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Jiminy Cricket, Cynthia Erivo as the fairy godmother. They were all right in this, but everything else, just the lazy attempts to try to modernize this for a new generation by bringing up celebrity names like we'll call you Chris Pine, just like stuff like that, and just the fact that they add pointless elements to it. It's a problem with Beauty and the Beast. Like, there's a seagull in here played by Lorraine Bracco. Why? Who knows? Hey, it's the chick from The Sopranos, though. It's the therapist in The Sopranos. Come see our film. And no, nobody went to go see their film, unfortunately. So, yeah, Pinocchio, I've said my piece on that one. Not a good film. On the same level of Superfly, White Men Can't Jump. You know, a movie that worked in the 1990s, but trying to remake it for 2023, yeah, it didn't work. And especially with a random scene with a guy with a flamethrower, because that's what White Men Can't Jump really needed, a guy shooting a flamethrower at somebody. Why was this movie even made? I mean, honestly, why was this even made? The Exorcist Believer, that's another one that failed miserably. They tried to do the same thing they did with the Halloween trilogy, which got old pretty quickly. I mean, by the time the second film happened, that series was over and done with. But this one didn't even get past the first film before the people were finally done with it. Just kind of like, what were you guys even thinking with this? I mean, there's promise of what you can do with an Exorcist film, but it wasn't in that film. And hopefully Mike Flanagan, when he makes this movie coming up here, we're supposed to get next year, but I haven't heard anything about it. But hopefully he'll find a way to fix it up here, because the potential is there to reboot this for a new generation, but not with the first of this film by David Gordon Green, not in a million years. And now we're into this year, the worst movies of 2025, and yeah, there's been some pretty bad remakes of films. We had one right off the get-go to start the year off with Wolfman, which another movie that kind of similar to Vacation, had a promising marketing campaign behind it with the trailers and all that, but then the Wolfman started showing up at Halloween Horror Nights, and at that point it was just kind of like, ooh, we're in trouble here. The worst part about it is, the monster that was at Halloween Horror Nights looks better than the actual monster in this movie. The idea in here is really good. You have an idea where it's a slow burn movie, but you have to have a bit payoff at the end. And the Wolfman that they show in this is ungodly awful. This is one of the worst werewolves I have ever seen in a movie that's supposed to be taken seriously. This is like something that even the 50s B movies that thrived on bad things like this would look at this and go like, hey, we're much better than this garbage here. How to Train Your Dragon, a pointless remake of a movie that was only made because, hey, Disney's having success with the live-action remakes. Lilo and Stitch was a much better remake than this pile of garbage here. They took a great trilogy of films and just did nothing but copy and pasted it, put some live actors in there, and idiots bought into it. And I say idiots because you're all idiots for making this movie a hit. I'm sorry. This movie was not great at all. And I shouldn't be insulting the audience, but I'm sorry. That's the cold honest truth here, people. But, yeah. And, last but not least, do I have one more here? I thought I had one more. Actually, that's it. I think that actually is every movie I wanted to cover on here. There's some other ones, too, that I've talked in great length in past videos and blog posts, so you can find those out there, especially if you just look up worst movies of specific years. You'll find those in there, but, let me know down below. What did you think of my list? What do you think of the worst remakes you've seen in the last 20 years? Let me know in the comments down below. But on Saturday, I will be back with the worst sequels of the last 20 years, and that will be one that I know is going to be in great length, because especially with the boom of sequels that we've had that absolutely are pointless, yeah, that's going to take up a lot of time on here. But so with all that said, thank you so much for watching this. Sorry this was kind of hastily put together at the last minute, but I wanted to get something for this week out there to you people. So with all that said, let me know your thoughts down below, of course. And if you like this, do me a favor and give me a like button, subscribe button, and notification on this. So hit that bell so you get notified. And check out some of the other videos we've done here. We've got Black Phone 2 review from last week, and we also have our playlist here too. So with all that said, I will see you on Saturday for the next episode of Talking About the Movies. So until then, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Take care.